Hi there, and welcome to part 3. Here we are going to talk about how to build the arguments for the PHP mail function. We've sanitized the data, we've checked it for validity, that the user entered all the fields that we require, and that it is in the proper format. Now that that is done, we need to build the mail function. The mail function has 4 arguments, and they each need to be formulated properly. The first argument is the to argument. This is the email you want to have the server send the mail to, so you would use a valid email address here. Next is the subject line. That's the title or subject of your email. It gives the user a preview of what the email is about. Next is the body. That's the content of your email. And last but not least, the headers. These are crucial, and you need to have at least the from attribute. Here is the parse file where we left off in the second part of this demo. So I'm going to comment out the echo on line 82 and start my scalar2 variable. I need to have a proper email address for this argument. It needs to know where to send the mail to. If you are using Gmail, it may take some training of your inbox to get that mail sent to you from the server and not have it wind up in spam. The subject line can be anything you want. It can be hard-coded or dynamic. In this example, our subject line is varied upon what the user selects in our dropdown. Next, we're going to build up the body. In PHP, you use the dot equals like the plus equals in JavaScript for strings. This is going to take the current value of body and add it to itself. I am using double quotes for my strings instead of single quotes like you see above in the email example. I've mentioned in the JavaScript class that JavaScript doesn't care if you use single or double quotes as long as they match. But PHP does. PHP does variable interpretation in double quotes. So in this example, you can see our scalar name inside of double quotes. PHP knows to go find the current value of scalar name and put its value here. If it were in single quotes, that's what's called a string literal, it would render out as $name and not the variable value that it holds. Another part of this is the \n. That is an important symbol and tells PHP to create a line break. So the email's message will be broken up into different lines in order to make it easier to read. So in this case, you can see name is on one line, email is on the next, etc., etc. For the message portion of the body, I am going to use the HTML entity decode function. Since my email is in plain text and not HTML text, I need to make sure that the quotes like in the words don't, for example, come across with the apostrophe and not some weird set of symbols like #39 semicolon. And the reason it would is due to the sanitization that we did when we first got the data. There are 3 arguments for this function, and the first argument is our string. The second argument is the flag, in this case ent quotes, which takes care of the quotes specifically. And the last argument is the encoding, UTF-8, which covers most symbols for most languages around the world. The last part of the mail function is the header argument. Everything that gets sent via the internet has a portion of data that comes with it called header data. Our post data is one type of header data. Emails have their own type and format of header data. If you ever look at the source code of an email, the header data will be visible. It's kind of neat to read if you ever look at it. Within the header data of every email, it is required to have a from. If you ever look at your emails, you can see the from attribute there. It must be in this format with the capital F and a colon at the end. The \r and the \n must also be included if multiple header attributes are set as you see here. I mentioned the \n is a line break. The \r represents a carriage return. This comes from the old days when typewriters were still a significant thing. Still, for headers, this part of the format is necessary. It's a break between the various header settings. You can see here we have reply to, but you can add CC as well as BCC to your email settings. Now that our mail arguments have their value set, I want to now use the mail function and pass it my arguments. I'm going to store the response from the server in a variable called mail. The mail function returns a 1 when successful and a 0 when unsuccessful. So I'm going to write a conditional statement for if there is a problem. I'm going to make it different than the message I'm outputting for when something is not valid. So I'm going to now fill out the form. Now I have submitted the form and we see nothing, noting the success of our email. When I was testing this on my local server, I saw that the failure message worked, so I know that that functionality is working properly. Even so, if you use Gmail, your emails to yourself will go into your spam box until your inbox gets trained to recognize the emails. So if you don't get the error message and you don't get your email, you will want to check your spam. This is the end of part 3. This and parts 1 and 2 are crucial for taking data from a form and then emailing it. You can stop here if you want. This is all that is required for the mail function to work properly. You want to capture and clean the data, then you want to validate your data and ensure that you have all the information you need. Then you want to mail that data to where it needs to go. In part 4, we are going to do some enhancements for your page based off of specific circumstances, such as if your form has been submitted and if the mail function has completed. Thanks for watching and happy coding!